Hey everyone, it's Manny Chandler, and I will be presenting on a Spanish margarita, or my variation of it, a royal Spanish margarita. So, a Spanish margarita is basically your classic Mexican margarita with an added liqueur 43, which comes from Spain. And there's a lot of different variations of a margarita, and I will get a little bit deeper into that when we go throughout the slides. So, these are the key ingredients you need for a Spanish margarita. You need 1.5 ounces of tequila, 1.5 ounces of liqueur 43, 1 ounce of lime juice, and a dash of orange bitters. For the royal Spanish margarita that you will be tasting today, I will be using the same ratio of tequila and liqueur 43. I will use 1 ounce of orange juice and 1 ounce of agave and a garnish of mint. So you could think it's really sweet with that whole ounce of agave, but the liqueur 43 and the mint combined doesn't make it that sweet, but sweet enough. And so it definitely won't taste, and don't expect it to taste like your classic margarita. It doesn't have lime juice, so it won't have that sour and refreshing taste that a classic margarita has. Here are the key, I guess, or how I would prepare it. And of course, you'll see a video here in a second. But you add all those ingredients to a shaker with ice. You shake for about 10 to 15 seconds when you feel that shaker getting cold. Then you strain it into your chilled margarita glass. And of course, you add your garnish and you serve it. So here are those three key preparation steps. You shake with ice, you strain into a chilled glass, and you garnish. And of course, you salt your rim before you garnish, and then you add them. So here's that video I mentioned before, and we will see.
Everyone, I'm Manny Chandler, and today I'm going to show you how to make a royal Spanish margarita. It's just a Spanish margarita with orange juice and agave. I have very limited space, so I'm going to show you all my ingredients first, and then everything else I'm going to use, and then we'll get into it. So first, I have my liqueur 43, which is a Spanish liqueur, hence Spanish margarita. I have tequila blanco. Here I'm using Espolon. In a perfect world, I would be using a lot premium, a lot higher quality tequila. We have agave. We have orange juice, original, no pulp. Then of course I have my shaker with ice, my strainer, my jig, mixing spoon, my garnish. And I don't have a margarita glass, so I'll be using a wine glass with ice. To start, you get your shaker bottle with ice. Then you measure out 1.5 ounces of liqueur 43. So we have 1 ounce and a half. Liqueur 43 gives it a very, like a vanilla almost taste. It's very interesting. I never had it before, but it's really good. Then we have 1.5 ounces of tequila blanco. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio with the liqueur 43. Then we have just 1 ounce of agave. And 1 ounce of orange juice. I really like the color the orange juice gives it. But here, we put it in our shaker. Of course, we shake. When you feel the shaker start getting like really cold, that's how you know you've shaken enough. And of course, we get our margarita glass. Can't forget the strainer. Now we strain into the glass. And of course, we garnish at the end. So we have a lime wheel. Also, in a perfect world, I would have salt around the rim. And we have a leaf of mint. Okay. And here we go. There's a royal Spanish margarita. You have to have a taste test. Another few.
So that is the royal Spanish margarita. Here's the history and the origin of the classic margarita and that Spanish margarita, of course. The classic margarita was believed to be made in the 1930s in Mexico. Around the 1950s, it started getting really popular across the world. So here in the United States, along Europe, of course, South and Central America. But right now in the modern era that we live in, there's so many variations of a margarita. From flavors, from frozen to on the rocks, Spanish margarita, Italian margarita. I had a champagne margarita one time. So keeping that original recipe of the classic margarita, you can add so many variations. So it's very versatile. And I think it's just a great option for any bar and restaurant to have. The key difference from a Spanish to a traditional margarita is that liqueur 43, which of course comes from Spain, makes it Spanish, like I mentioned before. And that mint garnish is another, I guess, big difference that really takes the flavor away and does not make it taste like your traditional margarita. The serving suggestions, like I've mentioned before, chilled glass, salt rim, and your garnish. And I'm actually going to talk about the food pairings. So any typical Mexican cuisine goes along very well with this type of margarita. In my personal preference, I think Mexican seafood would go really well. So, like shrimp tacos, fried mojarra, anything like that, ceviche would go really well. Aguachiles. But of course, if you're just feeling snacky, you can have your margarita and add some guac, some chips, some queso, salsa. It will go really well with the Spanish margarita. Here's my pricing. I would keep it between $12 and $16. Of course, I would not charge $16 here in Colowee, but if I was at the casino, if I was at Asheville, I would charge around that higher price because you really have to know the people that are coming in and what type of bar and restaurant you're serving it at. I think a typical margarita cost would be around $8. So I'm charging you a little bit more to 10, 12 is great because first you're adding more liquor and it sounds a little bit fancier because it's a Spanish margarita. And we have our key bar and beverage management tips that we have heard throughout the whole class. Keep your inventory stocked. You don't want a bartender running around, not finding his ingredients, making that line take a lot longer and making people wait longer for their drinks. Make sure you are prepared. You prepare when you open, you close, and even some restaurants prepare when they close and they have everything ready for the next day. And of course, the presentation of your bar and of your drink. You want to keep a very clean bar, a very clean working space, and you want to make aesthetically pleasing drinks. And before we do any of this, we always have to remember that we need to serve responsibly. Make sure your customers are 21. Make sure you check IDs. Make sure they are not past their limit and they can still have drinks. Control the portions. Make sure you're serving everybody the same in the drink. So you want to keep I guess like a good recipe, and you want to, of course, you want your recipes to all taste the same, like to make sure if three different bartenders are making it, that drink still tastes the same. Monitor consumption. Never be scared to stop serving somebody. And of course, have different alternatives from food to water and non alcoholic options for people who don't drink alcohol or who need to stop drinking alcohol because they've had too much.